So we're joined here today by Michael Black of Success Tutoring. I believe still Australia's, potentially the world's youngest franchisor.
I think so, Joel. Haven't been tracking it, but I think so. I think it has. Yes.
We'll keep the title for today.
We'll retain the title. And look, we've been working with you for a while. Super exciting brand. You're young, you're hungry, you're growing fast. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started and why franchising?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm very excited to be on the podcast today, Joel and Ophelia. Thank you for having me. Success Tutoring started in a spare room in my parents' house in Bosley Park in a suburb 50 minutes from the CBD. And it started from humble beginnings with no investors and determination to make things happen. The business started in a spare room, and we provide English and maths tutoring services from there. And it continued to grow. And now we've got locations all across Australia, New Zealand, expanding to international markets as well, such as the US and Canada. And our mission has always been the same. It's to motivate, inspire, and uplift students to reach their full potential using a personalised learning experience for each child.
Yeah, awesome. And so you started off with your own sort of studio and tutoring students. And did you sort of grow another couple of locations yourself from that, or did you go straight into franchising?
We certainly didn't go straight into franchising. We had to build a proven business model which was profitable and ensured that it attracted key stakeholders such as franchise partners and students, which we call members. So we started off and we launched and eventually had 3 corporate sites, and then from that we then expanded straight into Sydney and Melbourne, which were our first franchise locations. COVID hit straight away, and that really tested our relationship with the franchise partners, especially it was the first 2 franchise partners that we brought on board, and it was a very challenging time for us during COVID, but we adapted and we made some major shifts to the business model, which after COVID allowed us to really skyrocket into becoming one of the world's fastest growing education brands.
Yeah, awesome. And you mentioned the term franchise partners. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? You know, you don't call them franchisees?
Well, I heard the term franchise partners. I think when I was at university, I did a unit on franchising, and I think partnership is very important in the franchise relationship. I think there's needs to be a very strong, synergy between the goals and objectives of franchise partners and head office, because that allows the business to grow. And we genuinely believe that it is a true partnership that we have with our franchise partners, and that's why we call them franchise partners. And also, it sounds much better on a job description or title, franchise partner. So that's why we've got that.
Yeah, excellent.
When you had selected your first few franchise partners, did you ever find it difficult to kind of release the control or, feel that you could fully trust these people? Or were you just kind of ready to go at that point to say, oh, great, there's other people around to help me grow this business?
I think at every step of the journey when it comes to business, it's a very big mind shift change. So mind is very important. I believe when you master the mind and master yourself, you can master the world. And I think that's very, very important in business. And that just doesn't apply to me as a founder, but also to franchise partners, where you must master the mind. So in business, you've got the highest highs and the lowest lows, and it's very, very important that you can master that.
Yeah, definitely. When you started franchising, was it what you had expected, or did it come with a few more challenges than you had initially thought?
It's always harder than you think.
Yeah.
Everything you do, it's always harder than you think, I believe. And I think it's always about adapting and becoming better. And I think with good processes and systems and good support from head office, it does make it much easier for franchise partners, especially when they're using a proven business model. Everyone, I think, and even myself, I always think, this is going to be this way, it's going to go this way, but usually it doesn't end up going that way. Yeah. So you've got to pivot and adapt and be really resilient and ensure that, failure does happen and there are a lot of setbacks, but you've just got to keep pushing through and making sure it happens.
Definitely. I think in a space franchising in any sector, you need to be able to adapt. You know, whether it's because of legislative changes or changes to the economic climate, there's just always got to be that give and take of change and being able to adapt. Yeah.
And those first few years as a franchisor, you know, you don't have a head office, you don't have the support around you, you don't, you know, you may not have the budget to be able to afford third party and professional advisors to help you. Like, how did you go about that with your, you know, your first few franchisees, or was it just you wearing all hats of the business?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think building a team as well is very important. And I think in the initial phases, we did definitely have to invest a lot into the systems and processes, create an operations manual, create training, ensure that we're investing into our team members and making sure that they're very well equipped. There are certain documents, of course, that are required in franchising, specifically in Australia, such as the franchise agreement and FDD, which are very important documents, which we obviously, of course, had to invest in those things before we had sold our first 2 franchise locations. Also, we launched a HQ in Barangaroo in Sydney, which was a really important milestone in the business because it really put us on the map. Even though it was a serviced office, it was a office which really meant, you know, had a lot of significance, and it was a very strong motivation for our team members as well. So at that point, and still at this point as well, I believe the average age for our franchise head office team members is one of the youngest in the world. We've got team members that are in their 20s all the way up to 30s, but most of our team members are actually under the age of 25, which is absolutely insane, I believe. But also it just shows the fact that we've got a really strong team, and by having a HQ in Barangaroo, it was very strong motivation for our team members because, like, wow, like, you know, we can see the Harbour Bridge, the Opera House. It was really cool. And I think that also put Success Tutoring on the map, which allowed us to, you know, not just grow where we initially started, which was in Western Sydney, but across the nation.
Awesome. And so quite a young head office, you know, you're young yourself. It looks like, you know, that's enabled you Start again. So you've got quite a young head office. You're young yourself. I know you're a big adopter of technology. You know, you're looking to streamline the business. I mean, maybe some of these franchisors and these other generations, you know, maybe a bit reluctant to that sort of change. Is that something that you think has given you an edge?
I think technology, especially in this day and age with AI, it's definitely one of the most rapid changing environments that we've ever experienced of this generation. I think AI has changed the way that we work, and it will continue to change. And I think technology is very important because it allows a business to be able to streamline operations and systems. And I think where that fits into franchising is, as a head office, we're always looking at ways to optimize and reinvest any funds that the business receives through improving the processes and the systems, and ensuring that franchise partners are really profitable and growing together as a team. So as a HQ, it's definitely helped us save a lot of funds where we could otherwise reinvest in other important areas, like such as loading material, bringing on new franchise partners, improving the brand, doing a lot of PR as well. So I believe it has optimized the way we do work, and I think it allows us as a business community, generally speaking as well, it allows us to optimize our time into the highest value tasks, instead of, you know, having to, you know, write an email where, you know, you're changing grammar and punctuation. I think ChatGPT sometimes does a better job, well, at least for me anyway. I shouldn't say that, I'm a tutor, but that's the reality of the world that we live in, and I think there's it allows us to reinvest our focus and efforts into other areas of the business.
Yeah, and I know you've rolled out some changes on your new franchisee training programs.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got Success Academy, which has always been our platform where we provide ongoing training support to franchise partners and everyone within the head office. So it's a sort of like a internal accreditation system where they go online and they can watch videos, answer questions, and at the end they get a certificate as well. So that program allows us to be able to streamline the training and the systems. Similarly, in the onboarding process, we've made it really good in a way that franchise partners can now go through the onboarding process on their own at their own pace. So it reduces the bottleneck as a HQ. So as a HQ, we've got a set number of team members. Now franchise partners have the autonomy to actually go at every step of the way. They can run their business, and we just give them the guidance and the support and the training, and then they can go as quickly or as slowly or whatever as they deem fit. So yeah, that's how it is.
Awesome.
Onboarding franchisees, your franchise partners, is a really important aspect of business, obviously, because they become your ambassadors of Success Tutoring. When you are selecting franchise partners, is there anything specifically you're looking for, whether it's values or skills that you think, wow, you would make a great franchise partner? And then are there any red flags as well that you see as definitely not?
Yeah, I think one of the most important thing is that partnership aspect. So we always go into the business, and when we're speaking with prospective franchise partners, is that it's a partnership, and it's really important that that is a core foundation to the business that we're building, and so that is very important. Our business is in education, so it's all about working with kids and motivating, aspiring, and uplifting them. We want them to feel fulfilled in what, when they come to Success Tutoring, they have to have a smile on their face. We want that for all the students. So that's why the franchise partners we bring on board, we want to make sure that they have those similar values. Attitude is a very big thing as well. Like in business, it's the highest highs and lowest lows. Like you'll have some really, really good months, and then you'll have some really terrible months, and they'll really challenge you, not just from a business perspective, but personally as well. And so it's very, very important that the franchise partner recognizes that. I mean, with the success rate with, opening a Success Tutoring franchise, or any franchise for that matter, is significantly higher than them as opposed to them starting their own business. But at the same time, it's not always, it's not rainbows and sunshines all the time. So understanding that is very important, and making sure that we have a true partnership where we can grow together and developing the brand as a team.
Yeah. And as you continue to grow, what are some of the ways that you are looking to maintain that really strong relationship with your franchise partners?
Well, I think the most important thing is a genuine concern for progress, and the number one thing is understanding that the goals and objectives of franchise partners, and there are a few different ones. I think one of them is definitely fulfillment, profitability, ensuring that the business is running smoothly and that they feel fulfilled in what they want. Most franchise partners, when they come and work with us as franchise partners, is they want to get out of the 9 to 5. They've had enough. They really feel like there's an urge in them that they feel like they're destined for more, and so that's really important. And we're always making sure that we're bringing on the right franchise partners, and that we're aligned in whatever decision that we make, and we continue to grow together as a team.
Definitely, yeah. I think that's what attracts so many franchise partners to franchising, is that you have the ability to run your own business, but you have the safety net behind you and support of an entire franchisor and head office that has been there before. They've probably seen a lot of the challenges that the franchise partners are facing, and can be there to navigate them through when times get tough, and also be there when they're celebrating wins.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, one of the key foundational benefits of being part of a franchise network is not just head office support, but it's also franchise partner support. They're part of a greater community where they can learn from each other. And a lot of the time, and I always say this, the best ideas don't always come from HQ, they always come from franchise partners. You look at some of the top brands in the world, like McDonald's, the Big Mac and McCafe, both of these are ideas that came from franchise partners. That's the same thing with Success Tutoring. A lot of these, foundational ideas, such as Success Academy and a few other things, they came from franchise partners' concerns and challenges and their feedback. And we're always open to feedback, because that's how we can grow. And I think that is one of the most important elements of a franchise system. It's the network and the community and the power of that to drive growth for an organisation.
Definitely, yeah. Sorry.
And so you obviously established good growth in the Australian market, and you're looking to keep that momentum going in some international jurisdictions. Can you tell us a little bit about what countries you're looking at and how you've gone about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've launched in New Zealand. We're also expanding into Canada and the United States as well this year. So we're continuously growing. We've got a very big vision to become the leaders in education across the globe, where we motivate, inspire and uplift students. We're not just stopping at Australia, we're not just stopping at New Zealand, we're not just stopping in Canada. We're going to keep going. We're going to expand globally because we believe there is a strong need for education. The education system, in my opinion, and I'm sure a lot of people listening to this will agree with me as well, it's outdated. It needs a change. There needs to be some real change happening in the education system, and I think success tutoring is a mechanism and a tool for that. It may not be the solution to the education system that we have right now, which is the school system, which is traditional, hasn't changed for many years. But I believe success tutoring is just one piece of the puzzle that will bring us to a better step, in terms of improving learning and education for students as a whole.
How, as you do grow internationally, but even here in Australia, obviously the education system and just working in education yourself, parents put a lot of trust in your network, because obviously they're sending their children to you. So how do you maintain that high level of care across the entire network, and how do you plan to do that internationally?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I think systems and processes are number one. So we are in the education and tutoring space, but we're actually in the franchise space. Now, franchising is all about systems and processes. So whether you're running a burger joint, or whether you're running a tutoring business or a gym, the most common thing are systems and processes. So building systems and processes and good software and good mechanisms and good strategies and a great community, these are the foundational elements for building a successful franchise system. Running a franchise brand is so different from running a corporate business that is not franchised, because the key difference is, and this is why a lot of very large companies that try to go into franchising after they've opened up so many locations, that a lot of them fail, is because the foundational element of franchising, understanding that the franchise partners are the key stakeholders in the business. And so that's what we focus on, and with all of our business decisions, we're always thinking, how can we streamline it? How can we create processes and systems to ensure that it is standardized globally? But there are some things that we localize as well. So you mentioned about international growth. So for example, expanding into New Zealand and expanding to Canada, our curriculum is based on the local curriculum. It is not based on the Australian curriculum or some ad hoc international curriculum. It is based on the local curriculum, which means that students actually learn what they're supposed to in wherever they live.
Yeah, and I think that would also be a great way of attracting franchise partners in each local jurisdiction, because you're not, going in and forcing the way that we teach education in Australia. It's so different around the world. And so being able to come in and then be guided by those franchise partners as well, it seems that it's just a recipe for success internationally. You were mentioning earlier how important it is to be adaptable to change, and to be flexible with the model and to make sure that it maintains its success. How do you deal with maybe a bit of pushback from your franchise partners when you are rolling out new processes?
I think as long as HQ communicates it very well, I think it's always received very well. And we always make decisions in the best interest of franchise partners. We always make sure that the goals are aligned. Because if we look at some key goals, now as a HQ, obviously, and this is the most obvious thing, is as a HQ we want to grow and open up more locations, right? Franchise partners focus a lot on profitability and expanding their own individual portfolio. By expanding more locations, not just in Australia but globally, it builds a lot of strong strong reputation for the brand, which in turn ensures that franchise partners have higher retention and in turn a more profitable business. So we're always aligning the goals the same. So for example, we get a lot of feedback from franchise partners in improving the learning material. We never stop improving the learning material. It continuously improves. We've done a lot of PR recently. We've been on Channel 9, Channel 7. We've been on national TV. We've been featured in some really, really good publications. And these are also really good for franchise partners, not just for HQ. So understanding that, the goals need to be aligned because that's how you make change. Now, we are a very fast-growing education brand, and we are, of course, making a lot of changes, and that's fine. And every change we make, it needs to be in the best interest of franchise partners. And when we do that, we see that it's always received well, and everyone's on the same page, and we're really pushing it to grow.
Yeah, definitely. Well, as the pretty sure the world's youngest franchisor still. Is there anything you would recommend to someone who is potentially looking at franchising that really helped you at the beginning of your journey?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And actually, I actually have a chapter in my book about that. It's tips for franchisors, and I think these, like the foundational elements of franchising is understanding the key stakeholder, which is franchise partners, and doing the right thing by franchise partners and making sure that the business, aligned in terms of goals. So I think that's really important. But as a business is never perfect, so a model is never going to be perfect, and it's never in most cases, it's never too early to franchise, I believe, but you need to have proper systems and processes and a proven model. Now, when I started franchising, it was really hard. It took us 8 months to bring on the first few franchise partners, and it was hard, but you need to have like a really proven model. So we had to have like 3 corporate sites. There was a lot of trial and error with trying to get the first few franchise partners. Even the sales process of bringing on franchise partners, we had to change so many times. So tips, well, as long as you're doing it for the right reasons and you want to grow, and I think there's a lot of power in that. But at the same time, franchising isn't for everybody. It's hard. It's hard because sometimes, even comes back to your previous question about the goals and objectives, sometimes the goals and objectives may not always align. Yeah. So it's recognizing that, being, okay, it doesn't align, okay, how can we make sure they're aligned, or how can we reshape those goals? Because it's not always rainbows and sunshines, as I said, and it sometimes you gotta work with what you've got. So yeah.
Definitely.
And Michael, you mentioned your book. So in amongst, the push into systems improvements, growth in Australia and New Zealand, establishing yourself in the US and Canada, you found time to write a book. Talk to me about the motivation behind that.
Always been a very strong believer, Joel, that the more value you provide, the more you receive. And I think by writing this book, been running Success Tutoring for almost 9 years now, there's a lot of things that I've learned personally as a founder and as a CEO that I wanted to share with everybody. I also wanted to share with people that are potentially exploring Success Tutoring franchise opportunity, the motives and the driving factors that made Success Tutoring to what it is. And that's why I wrote the book. It's to provide value. It's to share my secrets. I didn't hold back in anything. So I've actually shared a lot of my upbringing, why things are the way they are, and what our goals are. And I share a lot of tips as well, not just for prospective franchise partners, but also franchisors and for parents. I give a lot of tips for parents as well, because beware. There are some controversial opinions in this book as well. I talk a lot about the education system and what my thoughts are around that and how it can be improved. I don't necessarily provide a solution, but I do definitely share my insight into what I've learnt so far in running Success Tutoring, and then being able to reflect in terms of how the education system currently is, not just in Australia, but globally. Yeah.
Excellent. And look, I love the passion behind you. You can see it in your business. How do you instill that passion amongst your team and make sure they're focused and aligned to your goal?
Well, I think the most important thing, and we've always got this, in our head office, and we always share this, is to motivate, inspire, and uplift students. Our goal is to change education for the better and make sure that every child loves learning. students love school and they love education based on the tutor or based on the teacher. So I'm sure a lot of people agree with me that your favorite subject usually it aligns with your favorite teacher. And so at Success Tutoring we have the power to really motivate and build a love for learning for students, because then they will love both English and math. They won't just love one subject. I mean, a lot of students just love English, or they might just love maths, or maybe they don't even love any of them. But we want to show them that they can love both, and that they can really, whatever they put their mind to, they can achieve. Because when Success Tutoring started in a spare room, I had a stamp actually, and I do write this in my book, which was Success Tutoring, Australia's best tutoring business. And that stamp, I purchased that stamp when we had one location, and it was running in a spare room, was 3 meters by 2 meters. And so that just, I would love for students that come to Success Tutoring to have that ambition and that motivation to believe that whatever they put their mind towards, they can achieve. Because we live in an amazing country, and I think there's a lot of opportunities, not just in Australia, but globally. But I believe that as long as they follow their passion, they will do amazing.
Sounds like that stamp was helping manifest your future. You knew from a young age, yeah. So as you have your business is so focused on the quality of education you provide your students, they're at the forefront of everything that you do. How do you, balance wanting to bring in or tune into whether you need to expand your service offering or add something new, so that things can keep updating and changing as they need to?
Yeah, so running for about 9 years, like we've made some changes to the business model, and I think straight after COVID was a bit of a wake up call. So we made some changes where we turned it into a membership based business model, which was weekly membership, no locking contracts, and pay per week approach. So that was a significant change that we made, and we made it after we launched our first 2 franchise sites. So at that point we had 5 sites, and we'd made that change, and it was a really good change in the right direction, because I think it really pushed Success Tutoring into becoming one of the leaders in Australia and globally as well. So but we're always making changes and we're always improving. The way that we make changes is we look at feedback from customers and franchise partners. Franchise partners are on the ground. They know what customers want. So we hear every bit of feedback that our franchise partners, we take it with a lot of weight. So we really listen, and then we find out, okay, these are some major concerns. Okay, it's not just at one location, it's at multiple. Okay, good. Let's bring that together and let's come up with a solution to solve that. And usually the solution is, let's maybe add another service offering, or let's do this, let's do that. So so that's the answer to
that. It's amazing to hear how much value you put in the opinions of your franchise partners, because I think we come across a lot of different franchise systems in our work, and sometimes there are the franchisors who are reluctant to change because they believe they know best. In some circumstances, I'm sure they do, but like you said, the franchise partners are the one face to face every day, delivering the service and the face of the network, and so they're seeing everything firsthand, what's working and what's not. And I assume it would also have really helped that you yourself had started that first location. You also saw firsthand a lot of the challenges the franchise partners would have been experiencing. Do you recommend, if someone is looking at opening or starting a franchise, that they have a corporate site to begin with that they can kind of test things out in, or do you think you can just launch straight into franchising?
I don't think you can launch straight into franchising unless you've got like a really strong, proven brand behind you. So, for example, I saw this thing. I think it was in Australia. I saw this. So everyone knows Monopoly, the board game.
Yeah.
And I was walking down a random strip one day, and I saw there's like a Monopoly cafe, and I thought that was really interesting. It's so random, by the way, but I think that might have been a franchised one, and maybe they didn't even open a corporate store because they had that brand behind them. So maybe you can. I don't really recommend it. I think it's always good to build a right unit economics from the start. So the unit economics is so important, and you hear that word a lot, and what it means is you need to make sure that location is profitable, it makes sense, and as you build a second and a third site, that it still makes sense. And that as you grow and open more sites, that the unit economics usually is supposed to get better, but that's not always the case. So yes, I would say, yeah, absolutely. You need a corporate site first before, unless you want to do it a different way, which I'm always open to different ideas, but I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Because I want to make sure it's the best as it currently is for franchise partners before selling it as a model.
Yeah, it gives you a bit more credibility as well with your franchise partners of, look, I've actually been in your shoes and,
Yeah.
I know what you're going through.
Yeah.
So someone's got their first store, it's going pretty well, they're thinking about franchising. Is there any tips you'd give to anyone thinking about embarking on that journey?
So in terms of tips, I think making sure you've got like a really good model. You've got to have operations manual, of course, and then you need like a franchise agreement and a disclosure document as well. I personally believe having the right advisors from the start very important as well, because you don't want to build a franchise system on not a good foundation. So you want to build the foundation right from the start. Now there's always a balance, because you got to look at what your risk appetite is. So risk appetite is this thing where it's like some organizations have a very high risk appetite and others have very low. So you need to understand yourself as well, what your risk appetite is. So if you've got if it's medium, then you want to, of course, get some advice and build good systems and processes. It doesn't have to be perfect, because it will never be perfect. Ours is not perfect, and it never will be. It will always improve. So, but you just need to build something that works, and then working off it, and then just playing to the music.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Michael. We are so looking forward to reading your book as well, and I think it'll just provide so many further insights with what you've shared today as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.